Destruction and devastation at the same time for people who want to put down their roots in its path.
652, Big 550 KTRS. The residents on Hawaii talking about the volcano Kilauea still acting up. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News correspondent, joins us from the Big Island. And I understand that over the weekend, another fissure has opened up, and that coupled with everything else has got to be making people incredibly nervous there.
Hey, Doug. Yeah, absolutely. So 3 new fissures opened this week, and the most recent one makes it 18. A total of 18 fissures now open in this residential farmland area of the Big Island. And, yeah, people are absolutely on edge. You know, they knew this was a possibility and a likelihood, actually, that more fissures would open. But this latest one prompted even more evacuations. And now the National Guard is saying that they could end up ordering about 2,000 more people to evacuate. They're concerned about more of these fissures opening. They're concerned about the toxic gas coming from the lava. They're also concerned about the impact on the roads. You know, there are cracks in so many of the roads in this area, and the fear is that one of the major roadways could end up being cut off either by cracks or by lava flow. And if that happens, it could end up stranding a whole bunch of residents on the other side. So that's why, they're starting to tell people who have not evacuated yet that it's time to start packing up and coming up with a plan.
We have talked about this before, and the people who are the experts in the field of volcanology have absolutely no idea how long this is going to go on at all, do they?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have a sense that it's not over yet. They've been monitoring the seismic activity in the area, and they say there have been a few small earthquakes every hour, and that gives them an indication that the magma is still moving underground, which means there's the potential that it could spew up through the earth. So they think it'll continue, but how long it will continue is really anyone's guess.
It was Friday. The president signed a major disaster declaration, which is going to be helpful, no doubt, for state and local recovery efforts, because we'll get some federal aid in there for people who have been displaced or have lost their homes. By the way, over the weekend, I saw some unbelievable video of a flow of lava coming out of one of these fissures and dumping into the ocean. And I think this is from this. I hope it wasn't a previous version, but it was like a waterfall.
Yeah, I think that might be. Yeah, that's from another. It hasn't reached the ocean just yet, but that's a possibility. Yeah, that's a possibility this time around because these fissures are opening up kind of in a line, and so they've been moving from west to east. So each one is just a little bit farther east, closer to the ocean. So, there is the possibility that we could see lava flowing into the ocean. And the National Guard says a part of their evacuation plan they're coming up with, they're figuring out that, if that major roadway gets cut off, if they need to help people get out, how they'll get to them. And part of it is they're working with the Coast Guard to figure out the possibility of some water evacuations if needed.
Just as a scene setter, and I probably should have done this going into this, but this volcano is part of a park. It's been active for, I don't know how long. I mean, it's been active for decades, it seems.
Since 83. Yeah, since 83.
Okay, and but it's basically, if you look at the Big Island, it's kind of the southeastern portion of the Big Island.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the southeastern portion. So, you have the summit of Kilauea actually has 2 craters, but the summit of it is something else they're watching. So I'll get to that in a second. But what we've been seeing here with these 18 fissures, it's about 25 miles away from the summit of the volcano. And what happens is the magma is traveling underground and then coming up 25 miles away or so through the ground into these neighborhoods. But the other thing that geologists are now watching is back at the summit, which is within Volcanoes National Park. They believe that in the next few days there could be what they call a steam explosion, and they say that could send some giant boulders rocketing into the sky. They say there will be a huge plume of ash that could go as high as 20,000 feet. They say the boulders, though, would fall just within the national park, so there's no concern, for people's safety unless they're in the park, which they shouldn't be because they've closed the park down because of the danger. Outside of the park, though, if this major steam explosion happens, they say we could see ash falling down for tens of miles away from the summit. So it could impact people on the outside just from the ash fall.
And I read over the weekend that some of this material that will be expelled if this happens we're talking, refrigerator, freezer-sized stuff that's going to be kicked out
Yeah.
of these crevices that have formed, which is spectacular.
It could be.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, they're basing this on the last time a steam explosion happened here, which was in 1924, and that's exactly what happened. They had some major boulders. There was actually a journalist who was killed because he went against orders, and he was right there up against the crater. And so they're trying to avoid any more issues, which is why they've closed the park. So it sounds really scary. You hear these boulders are going to come flying out of the crater, but no one should be within a close enough proximity to have any impact from that.
Marcy, thanks so much for the time, as always, and we'll continue to keep an eye on this with you as this whole process unfolds.
Sure thing. Thanks, Doug.
Marcia Gonzalez, ABC.